Dear learners, a very good afternoon to all of you. This is Neera Kapoor, Professor in Life Sciences from IGNOU, and I am coordinating the program of MSc in Zoology from IGNOU, and it is in distance mode. Now, today it is the first session for MSc Zoology core course, that is Physiology and Biochemistry. In this particular course, our first two volumes, they are mainly devoted to physiology, and second volume, which consists of third and fourth block, they are mainly on biochemistry. So today I will be dealing with the first unit of first volume, that is digestive system. Mainly we are dealing with human digestive system, that is their anatomy and physiology. As all of you know, that digestive system, it is very important. The food we eat, why do we eat? We eat to get energy. But this process is not so simple. Many organs are involved. What are their histological processes? What are their morphological processes? What are the physiological processes? These I will be telling you in this particular session of 1 hour. So I will start with functions of the digestive system. That is, first function is digestion, then absorption, then metabolism. Digestion means breakdown of ingested food. Absorption means passage of nutrients into the blood. This is very important step. Then metabolism, that is production of energy and energy currency, which is very important, that is ATP. Then we come to the main organs of the digestive system. Now, from the very beginning, from your 6th class onwards, you have seen this particular diagram in your books, that what are the main important organs. We start with the mouth, then there is pharynx, then there is esophagus, then there is stomach, then there is small intestine, then large intestine, then rectum, and then anus. And along with this, there are many accessory organs, many digestive glands which secrete the enzymes and make this system a bit smooth, so that the food can go easily inside the body. Now, first of all, we will come to mouth. What is the anatomy of the mouth? As you can see in the structure, first important structure, that is lips, which protect the interior opening. Then cheeks, they form the lateral walls. Then hard palate, which forms the interior roof. Then there is soft palate, which forms the posterior roof. Then there is ovula, which is fleshy projection of the soft palate, as you can see in this particular diagram. Then we come to another portion, that is vestibule, then tongue, then frenulum. These are the other components which are there in the mouth. So this vestibule, it is the space which between the lips, that is externally, and teeth and gums internally. You can see this is very clear in the figure. Then tongue, we know it is attached at hyoid and styloid processes and by the lingual frenulum. Then frenulum, it is a membrane that secures the tongue to the floor of the mouth and limits the movement. All these figures and these processes we have said in our units also. And some of the interesting portions of this digestive system we have given in our marginal comments also, or in the footnotes also. So you can see these figures, and some additional figures I have given in this presentation. Now tonsils, आप लोगों ने सुना होगा tonsils जो होते हैं, कुछ लोगों में tonsils बढ़ जाते हैं and it causes the tonsillitis. But tonsils, they are guard cells. We should not remove the tonsils, okay, because they help our body. If the tonsils are removed, the many processes, many disorders can be there. And there are two types of tonsils, that is palatine tonsils and the lingual tonsils. And you can see the spacing, you can see these are the palatine tonsils and these are the lingual tonsils. Then we come to what are the processes of the mouth. What are the main important processes which are happening? Mastication of food, that is mechanical digestion. Then mixing of this food with saliva, that is chemical digestion. Then initiation of swallowing by the tongue and allowing for the sense of taste. And these processes are very important. You know, in some of the people, their swallowing, it is not possible because some of the glands, as I will mention further, some of the glands, कुछ salivary glands जो होती हैं उसका secretion इतना नहीं होता है तो उनका swallowing में जो है उसमें problem आ जाता है. So this particular process which seems to be simple, but in some people it is not so simple. So these processes are very important when we speak about the digestive system. Now then it comes the pharynx. Pharynx, it is the passageway for air and food. You know, इसीलिए कभी कभी हम खाना खाते हैं तो हमें खांसी लग जाती है, इसीलिए कहा जाता है whenever you are eating food, जब आप खाना खा रहे हैं तो आप बात मत करिए, क्योंकि बात करते हुए जब कभी हम सांस लेते हैं तो वो जो सांस है वो फूड पार्टिकल्स के साथ चला जाता है, क्योंकि फेरिंग्स के साथ ही लैरिंग्स भी होता है, तो कभी कभी जो खाना है वो अटक जाता है एंड इट इज वेरी डेंजरस सिचुएशन. सो वी हैव टू बी वेरी केयरफुल while eating food. Food, it is propelled to the esophagus by two muscle layers. These muscle layers I will tell you further. And this food movement, it is by alternating contractions of the muscle layers. Now these contractions, they are very important. Whether the food which is going inside our system, that is, then also these peristaltic movements happen, or the food when the process, it is occurring at the end stage, when there is absorption, and after that there is assimilation, and then there is the ejection, then also these peristaltic movements, they are very important. Now we come to esophagus or the food pipe, जिसको हिंदी में हम आहार नली भी कहते हैं. It runs from pharynx to stomach through the diaphragm, and it conducts food by peristalsis. Peristaltis movement is basically alternate contraction, and this movement, this is very fascinating movement. You can see in the YouTube some very important fascinating videos. They are available which show the peristaltic movements. Then passageway for food only. This is the passageway for food only. It is not for the respiratory system. Okay, because respiratory system, it branches off after the pharynx. This is very important, which I have written within the brackets. Now, this particular diagram, it is very important, which shows the some of the histological layers which are present in our digestive system. Here you can see that outer layer here, this is the muscularis mucosa, then there is mucosa, and then there is submucosa, then adventitia, then muscularis externa. And there are the epithelial layers. These epithelial layers are stratified squamous epithelium, then lamina propria, muscularis mucosa. So this is the particular histological structures which you will see in the digestive system. Now the swallowing process. This particular swallowing process, it is very important. That is, there are three important processes or the phases which are there in the swallowing. That is buccal phase, pharyngeal phase, and the esophageal phase. In buccal phase, you can see the hard palate, soft palate, and then tongue, their bolus, and the esophagus, then epiglottis and trachea. Similarly, in pharyngeal phase, this is the next phase, and then here you can see the peristaltic movement which is happening in the process. And then the last phase, that is there you can see the thoracic cavity is there, then there is a diaphragm, and then there is esophageal phase. So these phases are very important in the swallowing. Then we come to the stomach. You know that after esophagus, it is the stomach, which is very important organ, and this is muscular organ. And in stomach, there are many histological layers, and it is located on the left side of the abdominal cavity, and it is approximately 10 inches long. And when it is full, then it holds about 1 gallon of food. And there are two important sphincters that I will show you in the next slide. That food enters at the cardio-esophageal sphincter and it exits at the pyloric sphincter or the pyloric valve, which is between stomach and small intestine. This will be more clear to you in this particular diagram. Here you can see that there is a this cardio-esophageal sphincter. Here you can see this is in the start, as I mentioned. Then there is in the end, this is the pyloric sphincter. So the whole food, it is entering from this, and then you can see here the fundus portion, then here is the serosa portion, then this particular curvature, this is very important, which has many rugae of the mucosa, and then in the end there is pyloric sphincter, and then there is the beginning of the duodenum. Then this is the structure of the stomach mucosa. Here you can see that this is the pyloric sphincter. This is the end one. Here you can see there are the many gastric pits, they are present here, and here there are many gastric glands which are present here, and these are the mucous neck cells, these are the parietal cells, then these are the chief cells, and all of these cells, they have very important functions. For example, these parietal cells, they secrete HCl, as you can see here. Then the chief cells, they secrete the pepsinogen, and pepsinogen, it is the inactive form, okay, of pepsin. When the pepsinogen, it is acted upon by HCl, then it is converted to active form, or that is called as a pepsin. And this enzyme, it is very helpful in the metabolism of the protein, and this is found here in the stomach. Then we come to the gastric pits and the glands. Here you can see this is the surface mucus cell which secretes the mucin. Then this is the mucous neck cell which secretes alkaline mucin. Then these are the parietal cells, as I mentioned earlier. They secretes hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor, which is very important. Intrinsic factor के बारे में हम आपको आगे बताएंगे, जिसका बहुत important role है. Then there is a chief cell, as you can see. This secretes the pepsinogen, and then there is the endocrine cell which secretes the gastrin. So these are the important hormones here. That is the gastrin. It is important hormone here in the stomach. Now there are important gastric gland cells. They are mucous neck cells, stem cells, then parietal cells, chief cells, and endocrine cells. And all of these cells, they have very important functions. As you can see, mucous neck cells, mucus secretion. Stem cells, they replace the damaged cells. Parietal cells, they are also called as oxyntic cells, which secrete HCl and intrinsic factor. Chief cells, pepsinogen, and enteroendocrine cells, gastrin, which is released into blood, and single cells which don't form the clusters. So these gastric gland cells, they are very important from the physiological point of view as well as from the examination point of view. Now functions. Stomach functions, हम सबको मालूम है, it acts as a storage tank for food, site of food breakdown, chemical breakdown of protein begins here. It delivers chyme or the processed food to the small intestine. Then it produces 2 to 3 liters per day of gastric juice. This gastric juice, it is very important, and gastric juice, it has a component that is HCl, enzymes, and mucus, and then it is regulated by neural and hormonal factors. So these are the important functions of the stomach. So stomach का जो काम है वो ultimately all these functions, they are regulated by brain. You know, if there is some nervousness है, अगर आपको कुछ examination है, अगर आपको कुछ stress है, so what happens? Your stomach, it gets disturbed. You may have diarrhea, you may have constipation, because everything, it is inside the brain. Because in the brain, the cells are being triggered by your anxiety and nervousness, which are ultimately causing the disturbance in your stomach. And as you know, everybody and every doctor says कि आपकी हर बीमारी की जो जड़ है वो पेट से ही शुरू होती है. Whatever the origin of any disorder or any disease in your body, it is caused by basically its origin is in the stomach, which we sometimes overlook. कई बार हम उस चीज़ों को overlook कर देते हैं और वो बीमारी का रूप ले लेती है. So these are the important stomach functions. Then we come to some of the diseases and the disorders. For example, heartburn, hiatal hernia, vomiting. These are the very common things which occur. Heartburn occurs when the cardio-esophageal sphincter, it fails to close tightly and gastric juice backs up into the esophagus. Hiatal hernia, superior part of the stomach protrudes above the diaphragm and allows juices to go into the esophagus. Then vomiting, that is the reverse movement of food which is brought about by a signal from the medulla. This you can see here the example. Just when the vomiting is, when the excretory products, they are coming from the mouth instead of the anus. So these are the processes which are taking place in the hernia here, and then the vomiting, as you know, that is ulti, जिसको हम कहते हैं उल्टी का आना. Okay. Now this is very important, that it takes 4 hours for stomach to empty after a well balanced meal and 6 hours for a fatty meal. यदि आप balanced meal खाते हैं तो पेट के ऊपर उतना प्रेशर नहीं पड़ता है, पेट को 4 घंटे लगते हैं उस पूरे प्रोसेस को, अपना स्टमक को एम्प्टी करने में कंटेंट्स. लेकिन अगर आप फैटी मील खाते हैं, इसीलिए कहते हैं कि भारी खाना खाने से बचना चाहिए, क्योंकि उससे आपके स्टमक पर जोर पड़ता है, उस पर प्रेशर पड़ता है. सो अपने ऑर्गन्स को अननेसेसरली प्रेशर में क्यों डालना? दैट इज वाई ऑलवेज डॉक्टर एडवाइजेस फॉर अ वेल बैलेंस्ड एंड न्यूट्रिशियस मील. Then we come to the small intestine. Now this is the major digestive organ. Though it is called as small intestine, but it is very large in size. It is larger as compared to large intestine. So their names are basically misnomers. And in small intestine, there is a large time which takes place, that is 4 to 8 hours. Because small intestine, it is doing a major process in the body. What is that major process? That is absorption. कि आपने जितना भी कुछ खाया है, उसमें जो भी यूजफुल चीजें हैं, यूजफुल आपके मिनरल्स हैं, वाइटामिन्स हैं, वो सबको एब्जॉर्ब करना. क्योंकि some of the things they are not needed by the body, they are excreted out. तो उन चीजों को एब्जॉर्ब करना जिससे कि आपको एटीपी मिलेगा, जिससे कि आपको मेटाबॉलिज्म होने पे एनर्जी मिलेगी. Those constituents, they are absorbed by the small intestine. That is why this particular organ of digestive system, it is very important. And it is site of nutrient absorption. It is a muscular tube which extends from the pyloric sphincter to the ileocecal valve. Pyloric sphincter is the last portion of the stomach. And from here to the ileocecal valve, this is the entire small intestine. It is suspended from the posterior abdominal wall by the mesentery. Then we come to subdivisions of small intestine. There are basically 3 portions, that is duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Duodenum, it is attached to the stomach, curves around the pancreas. Jejunum, it attaches to the duodenum. And ileum, this extends from jejunum to ileocecal valve of large intestine, and large intestine basically it is 12 feet long. So these are very important, and out of these duodenum and ileum, they play a very important role in the small intestine. Now we come to these are the particular figure, it is showing the three components which I mentioned here, that is this is the duodenum, then it is the entire coiled portion, जो आप ये coiled portion ऊपर का देख रहे हैं, this is jejunum, and here then it is the ileum. And the outer portion here, that this portion, or this is in orange color, this particular portion, this is large intestine, and then there is the starting of rectum, and then which then finally ends into the anus. Now, chemical digestion in the small intestine. This is very important. There are many enzymes that are mixed with chyme. Okay? Then in this, there are the intestinal cells and then the pancreas. And bile, it enters from the gallbladder. Now, gallbladder, it is very important. Now, gallbladder, generally, you have heard that some people, they have stones in gallbladders. Okay? There are stones in kidney also. But if there are stones in gallbladder, then stones are not removed. In fact, the entire gallbladder is removed. अगर किसी को gallbladder का दर्द होता है, तो उसका gallbladder ही निकाल दिया जाता है. Gallbladder का जो function है, basically that is emulsification of fats. Fats को emulsify करना, उसको उसके globules में उसको बदल देना. इसीलिए the persons who are without gallbladder, जिनमें gallbladder नहीं है, उनको fatty food खाने से मना किया जाता है. So they have to be very conscious about the food that they take inside. But so gallbladder is not an accessory organ, it is an important organ. So, but at some time, and especially in women, this particular organ, it has stones after the age of 50 years. Okay, so this is very important organ for our digestive system. Then we come to the chemical digestion in the small intestine. Now this particular metabolic process, it is very important. Now here you can see in the figure that the gallbladder, it is there, as I mentioned about gallbladder. Then there are right and left hepatic ducts from the liver. Then there is a common hepatic duct. And then there is, you can see, then in the pancreas, there is this accessory pancreatic duct which is going there. And this is the pancreas. Pancreas is very important, and in pancreas, there are all alkaline juices which are present. Then this is jejunum after duodenum, and this is the main pancreatic duct and the sphincter. So this is the chemical digestion which is happening, and this hepatopancreatic ampulla and sphincter, this is present here. And this one, this in the small, this thing, this is the major duodenal papilla. So this is the important chemical digestion which is happening in the small intestine. Now when we speak about small intestine, there are many structures, finger-like structures. These finger-like structures are called as villi, and these are formed by the mucosa. Now what is the function of these villi? These villi are finger-like projections, so they increase the absorptive area, because the main function of the intestine is absorption. So they give more surface area, as you can see, and this is highly vascularized because many blood vessels are coming to this. So this particular area, these blood vessels which are serving, so this particular area, it is highly vascularized. Now we come to the microvilli. First, we have spoken about the different structures which are present here. Now the microvilli, they are also small projections of the plasma membrane, as you can see from this particular figure. And these are found on the absorptive cells. Now the structures which are involved in the absorption of nutrients. Now these structures are absorptive cells, then blood capillaries, and in between here you will see a very important structure that is called as the lacteal, L-A-C-T-E-A-L. This is very important, and this is for the absorption of the fats, this particular lacteal structure. Here also you will see many blood capillaries are there, and in the outer layer, this orange structure, this is the absorptive cells, and this entire structure that I am telling you here and showing you, this entire structure is one villus. I told you there are many villi which are present here, and out of these villi, this is the singular villus which is present here, and you can see how complicated this particular structure is and how this is increasing the absorptive area. You will really appreciate that what type of structures they are present and how these particular processes are happening, and these are all again vascularized. You can see here the veins, you can see here the arteries, and this is the muscular layer, that is the submucosa. Now digestion in the small intestine. Now this breaks the double sugars into simple sugars and completes some protein digestion, helps complete digestion of starch, and carries out about half of all protein digestion. So basically whatever our macromolecules are there, that is carbohydrates, then proteins, and then fats. Carbohydrates, they are broken down into the sugars. Then our proteins, they are broken down into the amino acids, and our fats, they are broken down into the fatty acids and glycerol. So the main function of the digestion is to break down the complex or the complicated macromolecules into the small compounds. And the biochemistry of all this you will study in our second volume. That is why we are teaching you physiology and biochemistry together, because whatever we are teaching or studying in physiology, actually the biochemistry will always come in the picture, because whatever processes are happening, they are happening with the help of enzymes, hormones, and all these are the biochemical processes. So the digestion process, it is very complicated. I think break के लिए बोला
Are you a fresh graduate? Do you want to fulfill your educational aspiration by pursuing higher education in various interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary areas like environmental science, environment and occupational health, philosophy, sustainability science, folklore and culture studies? If yes, the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies offers various programs like Master's Program, Graduate Program, Postgraduate Diploma, Certificate and Appreciation Program. The school offers 5 Master's Program. Master of Science, Environmental Science. The eligibility criteria for MSc Environmental Science is Graduate in Science, BTech, BE, Agriculture Graduate, Forestry Graduate and Veterinary Graduate. School also offers Masters in Environment and Occupational Health, Masters in Sustainability Science, Masters in Philosophy and Masters in Folklore and Culture Studies. The eligibility criteria for these 4 Masters program is graduate in any discipline. The school also offers various socially relevant and need-based PG Diploma program like PG Diploma in Sustainability Science, PG Diploma in Environment and Occupational Health, PG Diploma in Folklore and Culture Studies and PG Diploma in Migration and Diaspora Studies. The school also offers PG Certificate in Climate Change and Avshist Prabandhan Mein Praman Patra. The school also offers 2 doctoral programs, PhD in Environmental Science and PhD in Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies. The school offers various innovative technologies and multimedia for providing a very excellent student support system. The study material is of high quality. The learner support is provided through Gyan Darshan, Gyan Vani, IRC, Swayam Prabha and Swayam channel of IGNOU. For more detail, please log in to IGNOU website. For online admission in these programs, visit school site and also the Samarth online education portal of IGNOU. So please join these programs and fulfill your educational aspirations.
Hello learners, welcome to this teleconferencing session. This is regarding the program on digestive system. In the last session, I told you about the process of digestion and the various organs which take part, and I told you about mouth, then stomach, pharynx and small intestine. And in small intestine, the main process as I mentioned was that is the absorption. Now in this particular session, I will tell you about the various glands which are present in the small intestine, then what happens in large intestine, and then what is the ingestion and how water is absorbed during the entire process. Now we will mention about the glands of small intestine, and in the glands you know that the main are the enterocytes are the tall columnar cells, then there are the goblet cells, then there are the crypts of liver cone. These are very important. These are glands found in the epithelial lining. They contain numerous cells such as stem cells to produce new cells, You know, stem cells nowadays, it is very common. Now stem cell therapy, it is being done for many of the cancers also. Okay, so these are the, and as well as enteroendocrine cells to synthesize and secrete the hormones. So these are the lumen of the small intestine. As I mentioned, these are the small villi you can see, and these are the microvilli you can see. This is already I have told you. And this is the crypts of Lieberkühn. And in that, the enteroendocrine cells, they are very important, which are located within them, and they secrete the hormones in response to the various stimuli. There are 4 main classes of enteroendocrine cells, that is I cells, S cells, K cells, and enterochromaffin cells. And I cells, they secrete cholecystokinin, which is very important. This stimulates the contraction of the gallbladder and release of pancreatic enzymes. Then the K cells, they secrete gastric inhibitory peptide, that is GIP, in response to the chyme which enters the small intestine. And finally, it is the enterochromaffin cells which are mechanically stimulated by the presence of chyme in the small intestine. They release serotonin, which acts on the enteric nervous system and activates the cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulators, which are called as CFTR. Now we come to the important glands, duodenal glands or the Brunner glands, which are locating in the submucosa of the duodenum. Here you can see that this duodenum, it has many important glands. You can see here Brunner's gland, this is the pyloric gland, and then this is the muscularis mucosa, this is the submucosa, and this particular portion, this is the pylorus. Now then we come to this particular figure. It is a consolidated figure. You can see this shows the regions of the small intestine. In the first you can see that is duodenum, jejunum, ileum. These are the 3 parts. Then you see here the large intestine, small intestine. This is the stomach, esophagus, and these are the walls of Kerckring. This is mucosa, submucosa. Then it is lumen, circular mucous layer, longitudinal mucous layer, then this is the serosa. And these are the enlargement of the different plicae circularis which you can see here. These are the small structure and this was the bigger structure. Now, what happens in the small intestine? In the small intestine, the major means of moving food, it is through the propulsion. As we mentioned earlier also, the peristaltic movement, and there is the mixing of the chyme with the digestive juices, and it aids in the propelling food. So these are the important processes which happen in the small intestine. Now this particular figure, again you can see there are 3 steps. First step, it is the, you can see this is the contraction of the circular muscles behind the food mass. This is from the mouth to food mass. This is the basically contraction, and there it shows to the anus. Then there is a contraction of longitudinal muscle. This you can see, there is the contraction. Then step 3, it is the contraction of circular muscle. Here you can see circular muscles are moving and it forces the food mass forward. So this is mechanism. You can see here this mechanism, it is very scientific mechanism which is happening, because everything is engineered in such a way that this is balance, is such balance that if there is a small any disturbance, then there can be any disorder or disease. Then we come to large intestine. There it is for 12 to 24 hours and it is larger in diameter, but it is shorter than the small intestine and it frames the internal abdomen. Now this is the particular structure, as I have told you earlier also. This is the this particular structure, it is a large intestine. This is the ascending colon, and then this one is the ascending colon, this is the descending colon, and this is the rectum, this is the anal colon, and this is the vermiform appendix. This is the cecum. Now appendix, you know, some people they have sometimes very severe pain, and this severe pain, this is because of the appendicitis. And the doctor has to do the immediate operation for this particular organ, and they have to remove this appendix. So this appendix, it is basically this is the vestigial organ which is present here, and these are the different walls, that is ileocecal wall, this is the ileum, this is the, I have told you, this is the ascending colon. Then Now, what are the functions of the large intestine? The most important function of the large intestine is the absorption of water. Then it eliminates indigestible food from the body as feces, and it does not participate in digestion of food. This is very important. That large intestine, this does not participate in digestion. By digestion, what do we mean? By digestion, we mean the food that is ingested, that is metabolized. So in metabolism, large intestine does not take part. Whenever we speak about the ATP production, for till ATP production, the main components, the main organs of digestive system, they are from mouth till small intestine. But why then it is considered as in digestive system? Because after digestion, some of the toxic materials which are not required by the body and they may cause harm to the body, they are to be removed. That is why it is put under the digestive system, and its main function, that is the absorption of the water. That is the main function, and removal of the waste product. So this is the main function of the large intestine. Then we come to the structure of the large intestine. It has basically ileocecal wall, which is very important, and it is between the small and the large intestine. Then there is the cecum, and then there is the appendix which hangs from the cecum, about which I have told you earlier. Then there is the colon, that is ascending, transverse, then descending, then sigmoidal colon, and then rectum, and then anus. Ascending colon, it travels up the right side. Transverse, it travels across the abdomen. Descending travels down the left side, and sigmoidal, that is pelvic colon. Now, food breakdown and absorption in the large intestine. No digestive enzymes are produced here. Resident bacteria, they digest the remaining nutrients. They produce some vitamin K and B and release gases. Water, vitamin K and B, they are absorbed. Remaining materials, they are eliminated via feces. Now, propulsion in the large intestine. Now, this is very important, that the mass movements, they are slow in the large intestine. Peristalsis, this is sluggish, and presence of feces in the rectum causes a defecation reflex, and internal anal sphincter, that is relaxed, and defecation occurs with relaxation of the voluntary anal sphincter. Now, this is the digestive secretion and absorption of water. Now, this particular slide, this is very important. Now, when we speak about this food and drink, here it is 2000 ml. Then this is the saliva, that is 1500 ml. Then you further move, here it is the gastric secretions. These gastric secretions, they are around 1500 ml. And then liver, in liver there is bile, there are around 1000 ml. Then you come to pancreatic juice, which is around 1000 ml. Then it is colonic mucus secretions, which is around 200 ml. And then here you come to the intestinal secretions, that is 2000 ml. Then we come here to the small intestine. Then there is the ileocecal wall, and then there is the colon. So here, this particular portion, as you see, the 5000 ml, it is here. Then here you can see it is the 9000 ml, and this is coming now, this is given out to the small intestine, this is being given out to the pancreatic juice, and here it is the colonic mucus secretion, which are around 200 ml. So now, what I want to tell you from this is that when we speak about the digestive system, now this particular process, it is a very complicated process. We think daily we are eating food, daily we are getting energy, so this process is automatically going on. But you will really appreciate that how many organs, how many cells, how many enzymes, how many hormones, they are involved. And as I mentioned, and as you must have seen in the figures also, that each and every organ, it has very complicated histological structure. Okay. Now in histological structures, you must refer to some good books, standard books, like Bayes की book है, Bayes book. It is very important book. There you will see कि उनको जो हम जो different cells और tissues जो मैंने आपको दिखाए हैं, उनको different उससे stain किया जाता है. उस हिसाब से उन्होंने उसको कलर करके, जैसे मैंने भी अपनी स्लाइड में पूरा कोशिश किया है कि आपको कलर्ड फिगर्स उसी तरह से दिखाई जाएं कि जो ब्लू है और जो रेड है, जैसे हिमेटोजाइलिन स्टेन्स है या ईओसिन स्टेन्स हैं, उससे किस तरह का फिगर्स और किस तरह के स्ट्रक्चर्स आपको दिखते हैं. तो हमने पूरी कोशिश की है कि हम आपको जब यहाँ पर दिखाएं तो आप उसी तरह के स्ट्रक्चर्स देख सकते हैं. जैसे कि आप ये देखिए, हमने आपको इस तरह की फिगर जो दिखाई है, दिस पर्टिकुलर फिगर, एंड बिफोर दैट ऑल्सो आई शोड यू वन मोर फिगर, दिस वन. This figure here you can see these are the very important structures that you have seen, because here you can see for example this particular enlargement of plicae circularius. Now this particular structure under microscope, when you see, this is very difficult to see. But to make you understand, because when we are teaching you in our SLM material, then you will not be able to appreciate. But when we are teaching you in our this teleconferencing session, our main aim is that you can understand it well, in a better way. That is why we are showing such structures. For example, this particular structure, like this, I have shown you the Brunner's gland. This is the pylori gland. So they are the different strains which are being used, and then these particular slides are shown to you. So this is the submucosa. These are all the muscular layers. Okay. And in these muscular layers, you must know that some of the layers which are very important, they are muscularis mucosa, submucosa, and muscularis externa. These particular layers, muscularis mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, these are the important layers which are present in most of the organs. But their structures may be different when we go from one organ to another organ. So these are some of the histological structure. Similarly, when you will see like this lumen of small intestine, you have seen these villi and the microvilli. Now these are very small structures. If you see within human body, then they are so micro in structure, but that is why they are named as microvilli. But when we are showing here, we are showing you a bit enlarged structure so that you can understand. That is why from this particular portion, what this microvilli, how do they look, then we have shown you like this over here. Now, similarly, now this particular structure, now the digestion in the small intestine, that help from the pancreas. You know, pancreas, it is very important because pancreatic enzyme, they play the major digestive function. And they are responsible for fat digestion. And for fat digestion, they have enzyme that is lipase. Similarly, they digest nucleic acids. When I mentioned about carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, the one important macromolecules are also nucleic acids. Nucleic acids, nowadays, everybody knows about DNA, RNA. You know about DNA fingerprinting. You know that whenever there is any murder or anything, you take the DNA or any other accident is there. You know the DNA, it is very small amount is needed. Then we do the PCR, because during COVID time, everybody knows about the PCR, that PCR was done. So nucleic acids, they are also being broken down by the enzymes which are called as nucleases. And these nucleases, they are present in the pancreas. So pancreas, it is very, very important organ. And if there is any abnormality in pancreas, so it can be very dangerous. Sometimes in pancreas, there may be some enlargement due to which there can be pancreatitis. So this may cause a very big complications for the person who is undergoing the pancreatitis. So pancreas, it is very important. And pancreas, you must appreciate that in pancreas we have isolates of Langerhans also. You know, these isolates of Langerhans, they have alpha cells and beta cells. And these are very important Because beta cells, they secrete insulin, and alpha cells, they secrete glucagon. And you know these are very important because diabetes mellitus, which is becoming very common among Indians, this is due to when there is less or there is deficiency of the insulin in our body. So pancreas is very important organ in that how should we increase the secretion of insulin? What is the happening in pancreas that it is secreting less insulin? So many metabolic processes, many metabolic as well as biochemical processes, they are happening in pancreas, due to which many of the important components and biomolecules, they are being degraded into the small compounds and the small components. And the most important component, so you know now that the pancreas, it produces insulin and the glucagon. Similarly, now the complete digestion of starch, complete digestion of proteins, and how much time it is taken. That digestion in the small intestine, it helps the complete digestion of starch carry out about half of all protein digestion. You know, there are many proteins in our body, and in protein there are many amino acids. So total number of amino acids, they are 20 amino acids, okay? And some of the amino acids our body cannot produce, and some of the amino acids, they can be produced by our body. So those amino acids which can be produced by our body, they are not needed. So they are called as non-essential amino acids. But some of the amino acids, they are needed. They are needed by the supplements. So they are called as the essential amino acids. So half of the digestion of the proteins, it is done in the small intestine. This is very significant and this is very important from the point of view of the digestion. And it also breaks the double sugars into the simple sugars. That is another important process which helps in the small intestine. And these are the structures, that is absorptive cells, lacteal, blood capillaries, vein, artery, submucous is done in the large intestine. So this is the difference, absorbed along this, but it is mainly done by the large intestine. And these are the glands, as I mentioned you earlier also. Now I will just want to highlight about the cholecystokinin, that is CCK. This is very pancreatic enzyme. Now both bile and pancreatic enzyme, दोनों का ही important function है lipid digestion. And S cells, I mentioned, I cells, C cells, I cells, S cells, K cells, and enterochromaffin cells. S cells, they secrete secretin in response to the low pH of chyme in the small intestine. Secretin bicarbonate secretion from the pancreas, and it inhibits gastric emptying. And K cells, they secrete gastric inhibitory peptide in response to the chyme entering the small intestine. And GIP, it has a misleading name because it actually stimulates, name is gastric inhibitory, but it stimulates the insulin release, which is ready to put the newly digested carbohydrates into the cells for storage. And then finally it is the enterochromaffin cells, and they are mechanically stimulated by the presence of chyme in the small intestine. They release serotonin, which acts on the enteric nervous system to activate the cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulator, or CFTR. This channel secretes chloride ions into the intestinal lumen with sodium ions and water following. Sodium is required in the lumen for the absorption of a number of nutrients. Now this sodium-potassium channel, this is very important. How much sodium is needed and how much potassium is needed, that is very important for our body. This is not only in the digestive system, this sodium-potassium channel and sodium-potassium transport, this is very important in our muscle contraction also. So, during this 1 hour session, what we have studied? Basically, the digestive process, digestive organs, digestive enzymes, digestive hormones. So this particular system, how much time it takes place in each organ. Then we mentioned about the various histologically, what are the histological structures of different organs and their substructures. So means if we speak about mouth or pharynx, or when we speak about mouth, it is not only within the mouth that there are only salivary glands. There are other structures also present. Then we told you about the tonsils, that what is the importance of the tonsils? They guard the body and they are required by our body. That is why they are present. But sometimes if there is extreme condition, then these tonsils, they are to be removed. Then the important structure, that is pharynx, and with the pharynx there is larynx also, that is voice. So why we should eat the food very in small particles? Because for the mastication, the more, that is why we are told कि हमें खाना जो है वो चबा के खाना चाहिए, और हम कहते हैं कि जितना हम खाना चबा के खाते हैं उतना ही उसमें मिठास आती है. Why do we say like this? क्योंकि when we eat the food and when it is chewed into small parts, then what happens? The more of the saliva it is secreted by the salivary glands. And saliva, when the salivary glands, there are many salivary glands that is present. Parotid glands are there, then the labial glands are there, and these secrete the saliva. And within the saliva, there is salivary amylase, or the ptyalin enzyme is there. Okay, and this ptyalin enzyme, this main function is to break down the carbohydrates into the sugars. Now I told you about the amylase which is present in the pancreas also. So there is the difference in the amylase which is present in our mouth and the amylase which is present in the pancreas. So this salivary amylase and the pancreatic amylase, their function is the same. That is, they break down the carbohydrates into the smaller particles. But the salivary amylase, when it gets the food, then this is the major food, it is there. But by the time this food, it comes to the pancreas, most of the processes, they have been happened. तो जब तक पैनक्रियाज में जाता है और पैनक्रियाटिक एमाइलेज को एक्ट करने को मिलता है, तब तक काफी सारे मेटाबॉलिक प्रोसेसेस हो गए होते हैं. So that is the fine thing that is being done by the pancreatic amylase. Okay, and then we have to see the pH. Now pH for the digestive system, that is very important. That acidic pH, it is needed. Acidic pH, it is there in the stomach, and in the pancreas, it is the alkaline. Because in our body, when we say that most of the food, it should be alkaline, it is always recommended कि हमें अपने खाने में acidic food का कम लेना चाहिए, और alkaline food like fruits and these things, they should be taken. Because foods which are alkaline in nature, they are digested easily. Then fatty foods to be avoided, because as I mentioned, the stomach, the 4 hours are taken by the stomach when it has to digest the well-maintained, well-balanced food, and it takes around 6 hours if it has to digest the fatty food. Then comes the small intestine, which has 3 components, that is duodenum, jejunum, ileum, and out of this duodenum, this is the most important component of this, where the most of the metabolic processes happening, and then there is the ileum. And then after this, there is the sphincter, and then there is a wall, after which the small intestine portion, it is finished, and then it is the large intestine which starts. And the most important vital function of the small intestine, that is the absorption of the food. And after the absorption, then there is the assimilation of the food. And after the assimilation, when there is a water absorption, it is done in the large intestine. And then after that, there is the expulsion or the excretion of the metabolic waste, which is done from the rectum and then finally from the anus. So these were the particular processes which I told you in the digestive system. This was a part 1. In part 2, I will come with some of the other diseases and some disorders and some other metabolic processes which are occurring in our system and in our body. So thank you very much for